This is part 2 of my Master Sword conspiracy theory. If you haven't already watched part 1, please go and watch that first, as it introduces this theory with evidence from the Master Sword in gameplay. This video will focus more on the narrative part of this theory, or what may have happened in the history of Breath of the Wild if this theory were true. This part contains a lot of speculation based on the narrative that has already been revealed to us in-game. So let's begin. Here's what we know about what happened 10,000 years ago. According to Impa, Hyrule was then blossoming as a highly advanced civilization. Even the most powerful monsters posed little threat to the denizens of the realm. The people thought it wise to utilize their technological prowess to ensure the safety of the land should Calamity Ganon ever return. They constructed 4 mechanical wonders that came to be known as divine beasts. They also built a legion of autonomous weapons called Guardians. In addition to the 4 divine beasts, the Guardians, and towers, we know that the Shrine of Resurrection and its underground divine beast tamer trial, the Master Cycle, the Sheikah Slate, the Shrines, and other ancient technology were developed to aid the hero. We also know that Master Sword replicas were created with their technology to fight the Great Calamity, but they were found to be impractical to use because of their weak durability. What is most interesting about Impa's story to me is that even the most powerful monsters had posed little threat to the people because of their great technology. We know of this great technology through the ancient swords and shields that can be found wielded by Guardian scouts. If such powerful weapons that glow with ancient energy were developed and used, why would they attempt to recreate the Master Sword? Surely, if the hero wielded the Master Sword, and the rest of the denizens could wield the powerful Sheikah tech that kept the most powerful monsters at bay, that would be sufficient. Were the replicas attempted out of greed for more power? Did they covet the Blade of Evil's Bane? Or were they attempted out of necessity? What if the Master Sword wasn't found in that generation? The people thought it wise to utilize their technological prowess to ensure the safety of the land should Calamity Ganon ever return. Maybe the signs of the return of Calamity Ganon approached quickly, and for one reason or another, the Master Sword did not call out to a hero. Without the legendary blade, the leaders would have begun to fear for their people. If they couldn't find the Master Sword, they may have sent the autonomous Guardians to search the land and the Forgotten Temple for the blade's resting place. Maybe the blade was lost in the river of time that it has traveled across before, or taken back up to the heavens where it originally resided. Or perhaps they found the sacred blade, but could not obtain it for fear of releasing a great evil upon the land that had been sealed away by the blade, as has happened before with the Master Sword and other legendary swords. What if the Forgotten Temple Guardians that protect that ancient structure were actually placed there to guard the resting place of the true Master Sword, lest someone would break its seal? Maybe they had the princess carrying the blood of the goddess, legions of autonomous guardians, armies of soldiers ready to fight, and the chosen champion representing courage. But for one reason or another, they didn't yet have the Blade of Evil's Bane. What would those people do if they had technology of untold power that may very well harness the divine power of the gods? What would you have done if your people were facing an impending doom, and the greatest hope for their safety was nowhere to be found, or unable to be obtained? But you had powerful technology that is essentially magic. Wouldn't you turn to the technology to ensure safety? It isn't hard to imagine that in this situation, the Sheikah scientists, perhaps also the monks and the holy sages, would have attempted to recreate the Blade of Evil's Bane. They would have gone through multiple experiments and trials, creating blades with strong edges and possibly infused with powerful technology, but ultimately structurally weak. Creating a magical artifact that drains the energy of the wielder, but glows with holy energy and is stronger than any weapon ever created, even the legendary Master Sword, which would ultimately be hidden away as a method of training the hero because it was too risky to use against Calamity Ganon. Maybe the ancient scholars unearthed the secrets of the goddess sword that became the Master Sword. Maybe they re-established the technology that developed a sentient blade. Or they sought out the ancient flames of the goddesses, or entreated the dragons to imbue the sword with the power of the gods. Maybe they had the princess carrying the blood of the goddess bless the sword with Hylia's power. Or maybe they sought the assistance of the powerful mage tribe known as the Zonai. Creating a champion explains that the Zonai are spoken of in hushed whispers as strong magic wielders who vanished suddenly thousands of years ago. Many fans also believe that they are the source of the Barbarian set, an outfit once favored by an ancient warlike tribe, which bolsters the user's fighting spirit and raises their attack power, though their connection is not technically confirmed. Many theories have circulated about the Zonai over the years. Even more are surfacing with the new trailers for Tears of the Kingdom. One big assumption is that the commonly seen green-colored magic is of Zonai origin. This is likely to be true, as the color of magic has in many Zelda games indicated different powers or sources. Just as divine magic is yellow or white, Sheikah magic is blue, Malice is red, it appears that Zonai magic is green. As this video is about the Master Sword and not the Zonai, and there is little confirmed about them at this time, I'll limit the discussion about them. But I will emphasize that there is evidence that the Sheikah worked with the Zonai and had access to their power in some instances. While it is not uncommon for Sheikah to live over a century, the ability to live for thousands of years appears to require an external force. During Skyward Sword, the Sheikah servant of the goddess, Impa, lived for thousands of years to watch over the Master Sword. At the end, we watch as she dissolves with yellow magic, hinting that her longevity was a blessing and a requirement given by the goddess. The monks in Breath of the Wild also last for thousands of years, only this time, the color of the magic isn't yellow or blue as expected, but is green like the spirits and the apparent Zonai magic of the new trailers. And if Ganondorf was preserved by Zonai magic, as some have theorized, it would make sense that the same magic preserved the ancient monks, so that they could aid the hero. Perhaps the Zonai magic was also the key to getting the Master Sword to work, adding immense power to the blade in an attempt to slay the Demon King. Unfortunately, Ganon is harder to kill than they may have expected. In Twilight Princess, we learn that the sages of that time attempted to execute the Gerudo thief Ganondorf with a sacred blade that shines with holy light, a blade known as the Sword of Six Sages. From the description of this sword in Breath of the Wild, we learn that the sages forged this blade with the specific purpose of sealing the Demon King, a responsibility normally performed by the true Master Sword. Why would the holy sages attempt to create a second blade to defeat Ganon? As this event took place long before that Link was chosen to be the hero of Hyrule and obtained the Master Sword, it can be interpreted that those sages forged their own blade out of perceived necessity, a mistake that proved disastrous for them when Ganon killed the Sage of Water and claimed the Sword of Six Sages as his own. Without the true Master Sword, or the divine power of the sages or goddess, Ganon cannot be truly defeated. In fact, in every instance where he still had returned. Maybe the ancients recognized the constant cycle and thought they found a better solution. Maybe they feared that use of the true Master Sword would continue the vicious cycle of evil and bloodshed. So they used a replica, infused with Zonai magic to defeat Ganon, and used further Zonai magic to trap his body in a preserved state, never dying and never able to fully return. Or maybe the Zonai preservation of Ganon came long before, and the Replica Master Sword was created specifically to fight the phantoms made by his malice, the Blights and the Calamity. There is still so little known about the Zonai, but it is possible that their powerful magic is tied to the Master Sword, especially when you look at the new logo for Tears of the Kingdom. The Master Sword is broken as we have seen before, but is now completed with green patterns, hinting at a possible Zonai connection for the blade. Regardless of how a replica would have succeeded, whether Sheikah magic, divine blessings, or Zonai magic, there are clearly differences between this blade and the original Master Sword. It would make sense that ancient tech causes the blade to glow and increase in strength if the blade was created by the same people that created the tech. And if the Hylian champion were to lead the armies of Guardians against Calamity Ganon, it would make sense for the Guardians to emit a signal to strengthen their champion. It would also make sense for the Guardian pillars around Hyrule Castle to emit a signal that bolsters the strength of the greatest protector should the other defenses fail. A signal that also provides the Sheikah slates with a full 3D scan of the castle should they need to escape through secret passages. When the blade is overused, either in its normal or enhanced state, it runs out of energy and is depicted with dark metal. When the blade is covered with malice, the shine of the sacred energy is stripped away, leaving the blade darkened and scarred, and potentially unable to glow with power from the Guardian signals. After seeing this, it would make sense for the Sheikah to create a pedestal to house the blade, with restorative properties to rebuild it between generations, just as they created the Shrine of Resurrection to heal the hero. In Twilight Princess, we learned from Princess Zelda that the Master Sword was forged by the wisdom of the sages. Likewise, we know that one of the generations of sages forged the Sword of Six Sages. In Skyward Sword, we learned that the goddess Hylia created Phi and the goddess sword that she dwells in. Perhaps the blade was forged by mortal sages on behalf of Hylia, while she created Phi to reside in the sword. Perhaps the Sword of Six Sages failed because it only housed the power of the sages, and lacked the blessing of the goddess. At the end of the trial of the sword, we enter the Sword Monk's shrine for the third time. We come face to face with 7 Sheikah monks, who likely represent the ancient 7 sages of old, as their poses imitate the sages of Ocarina of Time. We learn from these monks that they created the trial of the sword following a revelation from the goddess. If the first Master Sword was created by the wisdom of the sages, and these are the sages of 10,000 years ago, it would make sense if these monks created this second Master Sword, following a revelation of the goddess Hylia, that such a blade and trials for the hero would be needed. A version of the Master Sword that does not require the blessing of the living sages to maintain power, but rather technological upgrades to unlock its power. And only once its true splendor was awakened did these sages fade away, like the rest of the monks, their purpose having been fulfilled in reuniting the hero with a fully awakened Master Sword, a blade that, unlike the original, retains its power even after the sages have left the mortal world. Thank you so much for watching part 2 of this conspiracy theory. So far, I've explained the evidence I found from studying the games, and some theories about how the narrative could have occurred. But that's not all there is to this theory. When you have the time, please continue on to part 3, where I will address some of the biggest contradictions to this theory that I've found, the details in Breath of the Wild that just might disprove this whole idea. In the meantime, what do you think about these possible explanations? Is there just too much speculation? Which of these explanations do you prefer? Or is there a better explanation that you can think of? Let me know in the comments, and remember to continue on to part 3.